Hello everyone and welcome to our online lecture. In this lecture, you will get to know the definition of conceptualizing content and understand what makes up the content of language learning. This step is of great importance to every syllabus designer as it gives them the overview or the most general picture of what the course will be about, thanks to which you can make appropriate adjustments to course objectives, materials, and so on. Now, let's come to the first part of today's lecture. So, what we need to clarify first is what means to conceptualize content, one of the most important stages in building a course. I think that most of you guys are familiar with the term conceive, which means think of or come up with an idea in your mind. The noun of it is the word concept or an idea. So conceptualize means to create or formulate an idea, usually in a systematic way. In syllabus designing, conceptualizing content means that you create the content of your course in a systematic way based on various factors, one of which is the result of the needs analysis process. The process involves thinking about what you want your students to learn in the course, given who they are, their needs, and the purpose of the course. It means that we, as course designers, have to carefully consider students' needs and the main purpose of the course in order to decide the main content of the whole course. The next step is to make decisions about what to include and emphasize and what to drop. In this step, you will put the contents in the order of importance and pick out what needs to be included in the course and what can be left out. Last but not least, the process also involves organizing the content in a way that helps you to see the relationship among various elements so that you can make decisions about objectives, materials, sequence, and evaluation. The product of this process is a kind of raw syllabus that indicates what you intend to teach in your course. It can take various forms such as a mind map, grid, list, or flowchart. Here is an example of conceptualizing content using a mind map. As you can see, the course name, English Conversation 600, is on the top of the map. Its content is constructed with consideration of contour factors. In the course, grammar points such as conditionals, modals, and quantifiers will be included. About language functions, the course will focus on conversational functions of language, like agreeing or disagreeing. Skills like pronunciation skills and strategies, as well as consideration of genres, are also illustrated on the map. All aforementioned elements are integrated with vocabulary and put in different models, as you can see right in the middle of the map. Similarly, here is another example of content conceptualization with the use of a flowchart. The context, which should be immediate, real, and authentic, is put right on top of the flowchart. After that, the forces are identified as underlying recurring forces, subforce culture, driving force, and tertiary forces. Each type of forces determines the content of the course. For example, from the underlying recurring forces, course designers may decide the skills on focus, grammar, pronunciation, and vocabulary taught in the course. So we have learned the process of conceptualizing content. Now the question is, what can be the focus content of your course? One of the ways to answer this question is to utilize the framework by Graves, which will be introduced right away. Okay, So as you can see, according to Gray's framework, the focus content of the course can be classified into three main categories, which are focus on language, focus on learning and learners, and focus on social context. In the next part of the video, I'm going to guide you through each of the way to focus the content of the course. If you choose to focus on the language, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to stick to a linguistic skill or linguistic knowledge such as grammar or phonology. Instead, there are a variety of aspects of language that you may want to center your course on. To be specific, the focus on language may include the following components: linguistic skills. You may want to focus your lesson on one out of the four linguistic skills, namely listening, reading, speaking, and writing. Topics or themes. For example, you may want to organize the course according to common topics around students like school, home, holiday, games, and so on. Each lesson will be directed to only a theme or a topic, and students will have a chance to learn all the skills, structures, and vocabulary items related to that topic. Competencies. If you organize the content of your course according to competencies, you will want to help your learners to develop the ability to do something. The lesson objectives will usually be in the form of can-do statements. Content. You may want to teach the subject matter like economics or politics rather than the language itself. In this case, the language is just a means for you to deliver the subject matters to your students, not the focus of the lesson. Situations. You organize the content of the course according to different situations in which students may need to utilize the language. For example, at the post office, on the street, at school, at home, and so on. Communicative functions. You may want to organize the lessons around the functions that students may need to master in order to communicate in different situations, such as to ask for advice, to apologize, or to give instructions. Tasks, which can be understood as interactions whose purpose is to get something done. Genres. In this type of syllabus, you will organize the course according to reading genres like newspaper articles, novels, letters, college books, and so on. Focus on learning and learners may involve three factors: affective goals, interpersonal skills, and learning strategies. The affective goals are concerned with the learner's attitude towards themselves, learning, and target language and culture. In addition, focus on learning and learners also include interpersonal skills, which are the skills the learners develop to interact with other learners and with the teacher in the classroom to promote learning. Lastly, it is the learning strategies, which include cognitive and metacognitive strategies we use to learn effectively, such as self-monitoring and memorizing strategy. Focus on social context includes, firstly, social-linguistic skills, which are the skills of choosing and using appropriate language and extra-linguistic behavior for the setting, the purpose, the role, and the relationship. For example, knowing the level of politeness to use, exhibiting appropriate extra-linguistic behavior, such as how close to be, using appropriate spoken or written formulaic phrases for certain situations. Sociolinguistic skills are context-dependent and generally are learned through and alongside situations for skills or specific content. Next, it is the socio-cultural skills, which involves understanding cultural aspects of identity, values, norms, and customs. These skills enable us to interpret explicit and implicit messages and behave and speak in a culturally appropriate way. Finally, socio-political skills involve learning to think critically and take action for effective change in order to participate effectively in one's community. These skills include learning how to navigate systems such as medical, school, and employment system and know one's rights and responsibilities within them. Remember that, firstly, many of these areas overlap or connect to each other. For example, you cannot focus on topics without including vocabulary and probably some kinds of situations or communicative function. You cannot focus on speaking without including listening. And secondly, the category language includes both the what, which includes the knowledge of the grammar, vocabulary, or phonetics, and the how, which means the four skills: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So, that's the end of today's lesson on conceptualizing content. We've learned the process of conceptualizing, as well as the way to do it by using Grape's framework. I hope you had a good time learning today. Goodbye, and see you in the next videos.